Hello, it's Sadie. I wanted to come on and do this Mars retrograde energy reading because for the last couple days I've gotten a lot of emails, a lot of messages like, hey, what's going on with the energy? Like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I want to blow up at people? Why am I super triggered and annoyed? Or the other part of this energy is I'm feeling the density. I'm feeling more psychic attack. I'm feeling just more lower vibrational energy around me. What's going on? And so what's going on is that we today officially are in a transit that does happen once a year, once every couple of years. The thing though is that this retrograde's a little bit longer, so it's going to pack more of a punch. But today, December 6th, 2024, as I'm filming this, we officially kicked off Mars moving retrograde in the sign of Leo. So Mars is the planet that rules Aries. It rules the self. It rules independence. It is a very masculine energy. It is fire energy. And so fire is passion, desire, innovation, drive, action. Fire is also sexuality and virility. But fire is also war, violence, anger, arguments, outbursts. Equally, Mars energy can be a time just when there's a lot of Mars energy in the air, where there's more fires, there's more earthquakes, there's more accidents, there's more acts of violence, and there's just more, everything's just kind of like at a fever pitch. We have seen that this week. There's been public assassinations, there's been earthquakes, there's been all the energy, okay? That is Mars activating in the way that it's being activated right now, as it is in another fire sign, Leo. Leo is the lion. In the tarot, Leo represents the Sun card. It also represents the Strength card, which was the card of the day. And so this energy is really going to impact you in terms of your empowerment, okay? So some of the ways that it's been showing up for myself and other people who've contacted me this week is there have been situations where we have had to speak up. We have had to stand our ground. You know, it's funny. All of the cards this week for the daily messages, you know, for those on regular on my channel, I try to do a daily oracle or tarot card short message. And we had the Strength card today. The other day we had the Seven of Wands from the Light Seers Tarot deck, where she's like encapsulated in that white bubble shield of protection. The Alchemy of Poison, which is from the Colette Baron Reed Oracle card deck, where it talks about radical acceptance and forgiveness and like kind of the gift of poison and transformation, how toxic situations and circumstances can be utilized for your favor. And all of these cards represent that Mars energy of like things that we can use to our benefit, even if they don't seem beneficial. Mars gets a bad rep because it is, you know, the Lord of War. It is the God of war, you know, Aries and Mars, that's the energy. But equally, Mars can be very motivating. There was a show that I used to watch. I think it only had 2 seasons. It was called American Gods. And in the first season, there was a character who was the spirit, like the god spirit of a slave who was coming from Africa on the ships to America. And he was walking around the slave ship and he was saying, anger gets shit done. And truer words never spoken. Anger can be an incendiary force that gets that fire inside of you to move, to not accept what you refuse to accept, to really motivate yourself to do better, to reach your goals, to, stand up for yourself, to empower yourself. And so that's what this Mars retrograde is going to bring out. But it's going to bring out that energy of, you could say, sacred anger or righteous anger, especially for those who feel like you've been in unjust, unfair, unkind, unsupportive situations. You will find yourself over the next few months, because the transit started today, but it's going to last until February 23rd of 2025. So you may find yourself over the next few months, really speaking up, really saying what you think, not holding that back, not holding back your tongue. Now, sometimes that's good. Sometimes we do need to set healthy boundaries and be assertive. But sometimes, we're arguing just for arguing's sake, or we're in positions where it's you can argue your point all you want, but nobody's listening and nobody cares. And so sometimes that anger can be misdirected. And so the lesson of this Mars retrograde is to learn to use the energy of anger. Anger is an energy. Anger is an emotion. Emotions are energy in motion. Learn to use the energy of anger in a constructive way. Because when you can tap into that power, and I'm seeing the Sun card, I'm seeing the Strength card. When you can tap into that power, your inner lion, your inner lioness, not only does it put you in a leadership position, it puts you in a position of power. That energy is power and it can't be denied. But equally, that energy can kind of move mountains for you. Where there's been blocks, where there's been obstacles, where there's been stuck energy. Getting to that place of righteous anger, of sacred rage, can really be sort of that energy that parts the Red Sea, that parts all the obstacles, all the delays, everything in your path. And so that's the tricky issue with the energy and being in this retrograde right now, is because we're also in a Mercury retrograde. And so when both Mars and Mercury are in retrograde, it's that Mercury retrograde energy is amplified 10 times, tenfold. So there could be more accidents, more plane crashes, more violence, more just technology completely breaking down, systems not working at all. You're definitely going to see that over the next month. If you haven't already been experiencing it, it is also a time where you really need to be careful of theft in general, identity theft. This is one of the busiest times, if not the busiest time of year for shopping and traveling for many people. And so, nothing that you do online is secret or hidden. And your information can be compromised very easily. And so be vigilant during this time. Anything that you are ordering, buying online, anything that you are putting in your information to online, and just travel in general, just be vigilant, because that trickster energy, that very heavy, dense energy is very strong right now as well. And so this is a time to be forewarned. When you are forewarned, you are forearmed, and you'll take extra precaution to protect yourself, protect your assets, protect your energy. This is a good time for that. So if you are feeling that intensity of boiling, of, outbursts, of really, really being sharp with the tongue, really sort of speaking your mind and not holding your tongue back, not holding it back at all, understand that's the part of you that's seeking to be heard. And so your lesson in this is to use your voice and assert your power and your authority, your inner authority for yourself, but in constructive ways for yourself. Not every battle is worth fighting, and not every battle can be won. And so just because not every battle is worth fighting and not every battle can be won doesn't mean it's not worthy to stand up for what you believe in and what your rights are. But equally, this is a time, because Mars being in retrograde can have the opposite impact too, where it's like you feel unmotivated, you feel lethargic, you feel more tired, you feel just more like not wanting to do anything, not really wanting to be around anyone. It can either bring in a burst of energy or it can totally deplete your energy. Both are true for Mars retrogrades, especially depending on where you have Mars in your birth chart, okay? And so I'm getting the bursts of energy, right? It's like I've literally had maybe 3 hours sleep. I'm tired, but I'm like awake and I'm up and I'm doing stuff and I've been very productive and super busy. It's like nonstop. Everything's nonstop lately for me. But others are experiencing, gosh, I can't even get up. I'm not even motivated to get out of bed. I've had 4 cups of coffee and it's still not working. So Mars retrograde can do both. Duality is a simultaneous experience, and when we are in astrological transits like this, you can have the experience of both. Some of you may be having both. Like one day you feel great, energized, a little bit angry, a little bit cranky, a little bit persnickety, a little cranky, a little hangry, vexed, agitated. Like these are normal things during this energy, right? But then the next day you could be like, I slept 12 hours. I had 5 cups of coffee. I drink energy drinks. I'm just all day, I can't even seem to like keep my eyes open. That is very true of this time. All right. And so just be gentle with yourself, first and foremost. Be gentle with yourself. Give yourself grace. When you have those bursts of inspiration and energy to be motivated to do things, that's when you should do things. And vice versa. When you feel like, okay, I just need to lay in bed all day. I can't people today. I just can't deal with it all. That's when you need to take a time out and hermit and really focus on self-care. All right. The other thing with this energy is that if you are experiencing that, everybody else is experiencing that too. So some of the outbursts and some of the crankly energy that's going around may have nothing to do with you. You're just minding your own business, staying in your own lane, doing your own thing, and other people are really hyped up and amped up and angry and triggered and ready to blow. And so you may experience that during this time too. Mars retrograde, honestly, is very difficult for relationships. I hate to say that, but because especially in a Mercury retrograde, communication just gets lost. And then it's like everybody's yelling, everybody's mad, there's crying, there's anger, there's throwing, there's leaving. So if you know that you're already about to blow, diffuse yourself. That's what my guides have been telling me. Because I've had things this week that have come up for me personally where it's just been like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Where I just needed to take a walk, take a step back. One of my things personally that I think that sacred rage, that sacred anger, that righteous anger has been coming up for me personally is where I know I'm being lied to. I know I'm being gaslit. Like, don't play in my face. Like, I see it. I'm intuitive. I've been pulling Seven of Swords all week. Like, I get it. Like, don't play in my face. Like, just be real with it, you know? So that's something that really grates me. It really irritates me. But again, everybody's in their own experience. You've got to honor people in their own experience and act accordingly. You have no control over what anybody does, says, or thinks about you, but you have all the control and all the power in your response and your reaction. And so this is a time where you might be reactive. And so pick and choose your battles. Sometimes you've got to stand up for yourself. Again, like I said, sometimes that Mars energy is like the energy of like standing in your power, standing up for yourself, standing up for your rights. Sometimes you have to do that. But there's other times where, you know, you don't have to be first to the red light. Like, really, if we're driving the same direction and you need to cut me off in traffic to be first to the red light, you win. I'm not gonna, no. It's no. Okay? So, but for some of you, that might very much trigger you when you're driving. So for me, I'll just go slower. Like, I don't even care. I just gotta go slow. Whatever. And this is a good time to go slow, especially with Mercury retrograde, especially with the Mars retrograde in Leo, because it's fire activating fire. So fire activating fire is more fire. So again, fires, big fires could be happening right now, especially in houses with lighting. Spirit was like warning of like lighting of candles. And this is the time of year of the lights. It's beautiful. I love driving around and seeing the lights and everything for the holiday displays, but it also could be very dangerous. So just, you know, make sure everything's working. If anything's sparking up, if you smell any like, ooh, it smells like fire, like pay attention to that. Okay. Don't forget that you got candles on, you know, love candles, but just be careful with them during this time. Electrical fires could be very, very prevalent during this time. We already saw massive earthquake. I think California and the West Coast had one earlier this week, 7.0. You know, this time is very energetically volatile. It's shaking things up. You don't have to let that scare you. But if you're feeling particularly ready to snap, this is a good time to use your tools, ground, center, wear crystals, use affirmations, breathe. The breathing techniques, breathing exercises, very, very important. Bringing oxygen throughout your entire body to ground yourself. You have the power and you have the tools to navigate this time. Even though it's a challenging time, you have the power and you have the tools to navigate it in a way where you're utilizing the energy constructively for you and your goals, okay? The other thing though, as I started this video, about Mars retrograde. This is something that I've just personally have seen and experienced throughout Mars retrograde periods. So this is where this video gets woo-woo. If you're not into like woo-woo stuff, you might want to, exit stage left, get it. This is a time to, again, with the density in the air, there's a lot of timeline shifts. There's a lot going on. Mars retrogrades seems to bring what you could call like the ghosts, the spirits, the demonic entities to the surface. Okay? And so this is a good time. Again, cleanse your energy. Always be cleansing your energy. Know yourself and how certain things impact you. So I had a lot of sugar this week. Post Thanksgiving, there's a lot of treats. There's a lot of stuff, and I ate more sugar than I should have this week. And I really saw that it kind of like just lowered my energy and lowered my vibration to the point where there was many psychic attacks that I experienced this week. And I know it was because I ate too much sugar, because the times when I didn't eat sugar and I stayed away from it, I was good. And so that's just for me. But know yourself. Know how certain foods are going to impact you right now, how certain drinks are going to impact you right now. Just understand that psychic attack energy is very, very strong right now, because when more people are angry and triggered and sort of stewing in that anger and triggered energy and not grounding themselves and not using it in a constructive way, that energy becomes very destructive. It also seems to allow for more attachments. Okay, this is not to scare you, but again, the more anger you carry, the more you're in sort of a darker energy for a prolonged period of time, the more those entity energetic attachments feed off of that energy. And so this is like a feeding / harvest time for those types of entities right now because of the energy that we're in. And so just be mindful. If you feel like there's stuff in your house, in your energetic space, at your job, in your car, sage, Palo Santo, holy water, Florida water, whatever you do to cleanse, also just like cleaning itself, that expression, cleanliness is close to godliness. That is not a lie. When you're cleaning the energy of a room, of a space, when you're not hoarding papers and energy in one space, you're letting it flow out. Clears out stuff that gets connected and attached to papers. And, again, we carry, everything is energy. And everything has a frequency and vibration with it. And so when you've got grandma's, old chest of stuff, and like maybe grandma was not a happy person. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was like one of the most miserable people I'd ever met in my entire life. She just was not a happy person, but she also went through a lot. I'm not going to get into like my family history, but I was terrified of her as a child. So the energy that she carried was very, very heavy. So, we all have people in our lives or people in our families that carry sometimes heavier energy, and sometimes you don't want their stuff. You don't want to have it. I understand it's grandma, but sometimes like put it in a storage bin. Don't keep it in your house, This is a great time for cleansing, donating, clearing energy, clearing the space. Also, when you sage and use Palo Santo, remember to get the corners of the room. And you also want to have like a window or a door open where energy is able to flow out of the space that you are cleansing. Okay? Because there's a lot of stuff that gets into the corners. A lot of people don't know that, but that's true. There's a lot of entities and stuff that kind of hang out in the corners. And so you want to cleanse the corners. A great cleansing agent, super cheap, salt, white vinegar, lemons. I mean, you can just create your own concoction of that and like mop your house, mop your floors, spray the walls, wipe things down. You wouldn't believe how much clearer your space will feel. And this is a good time to do that. Because again, there's just a lot, because there's more anger in the air and there's more density in the air and people are more triggered, and you know, this time of year is very stressful for people with the holidays and money and spending, and there's more lines and there's just more, it's just more. And so because there's more of all of it. Okay, the spiritual worlds are just as real as the physical world, if not more real. And you know, we're seeing it all. You know, I know there's a lot of extraterrestrial activity right now. I've been seeing stuff in the sky. So it's like, there's a ton happening. Just protect your energy, use your discernment, diffuse yourself. Diffuse yourself. You don't necessarily have to diffuse the situation or anybody else. Diffuse yourself. If that means withdrawing, if that means going ghost mode, if that means hermiting, if that means slowing down, driving more slowly, whatever that means for you, do that. Okay? Because, like I said, this one is a little bit longer. So it's going to be in the sign of Leo between today and January 6th. So a month in the sign of Leo retrograding, and then it retrogrades back into Cancer. Why I wanted to do this video is because one of the things specifically that I was told, and sorry for the background noise, there's like someone, a neighbor right there, like going into their apartment. One of the things I was specifically told about January, and you know, we're going to inaugurate a new president into the United States, new old president, you know, is that January, and specifically the Trump presidency, starts off with a bang. Now, infer what you will about that. But one of the messages I was getting very specifically, and I know I haven't done the video yet, I'll briefly mention some of the channelings that I was getting about that, and then I'll do a video more of like a prediction / potential video of 2025. But one of the things, because we are in Mars retrograde and his presidency is going to start in a Mars retrograde, that his presidency, and again, this is no trigger warning, but this is not to bring in fear, but there could be absolutely a manifestation of war energy. You know, again, Mars is the god of war. It is the planet that rules war and warriors. And so there's definitely going to be an uptick in military action or some sort of military event that takes place early on in the beginning of the year. Again, that is not to bring in fear. I know there's a lot in the atmosphere about it already. Countries are warning people about, you know, WW3. What's interesting about the energy right now, though, is that it's very changeable. So even though his timeline, him winning the presidency and the timeline that we're currently on, is a manifestation of war. What Spirit's been really saying this week is that it may not play out in the ways that you think it's going to. Meaning, even if there is some sort of event, that event could be diffused and dispersed of quickly. But what we will see, especially here in the United States, is more infighting. The energy of domestic violence. And I don't mean domestic violence as far as like a relationship in a home where there's violence. I mean domestic as the country. The energy of violence within the country, a war energy within the country, because of how divided we are, because of a lot of other things. That energy is going to play out very, very, very strongly this upcoming year, 2025. Okay? And so that's why it's so important to understand and know how to diffuse yourself. You do not want to get pulled into the war games of the collapsing how do I want to say this? The collapsing structures that need to fall down. This is not a political video, regardless of you, if you like Trump or not, if you voted for Trump or not. I didn't vote at all, okay? He is a catalyst. He is meant to be. His divine assignment in this world, on this planet, is to be a catalyst for change. Change often comes through conflict, through war. If you think of the tower, comes through things breaking down. Is it an easy energy? No. Is it a necessary energy? Yes. And so understand that the events that are taking place and that will take place are fated for the evolution, the higher evolution of humanity. And again, I'll talk more about this in the 2025 video, which I'm hopefully to get done in the next week or two. But just know that duality is going to play out maybe louder and more violently than it ever has before, than we've ever seen or experienced before. And for many, that's going to feel very unsafe. And it's going to feel very disorienting. And that's why it's so important to just know who you are. Continue to follow your authentic truth. Continue to follow your path of joy. And to really protect your peace. Protect your peace in whatever way that means for you in all costs. Okay? There's things that have to break down for other things to come together. These are going to be hard times for many. But part of the purpose of this time is, again, to rely on your own sovereignty, your inner power. You are the most powerful when you are aligned with God and your higher truth and your soul and your heart. That is when you are most empowered. And so if you can just remember that in every moment of every day and walk in that space, you will not be touched by the goings on of the collapsing 3D world. We've always sought, in this world, in this environment, has taught us to seek outside of ourselves. And this is going to be the time where everyone's going to learn, if they are on a higher path, to seek within. Just like that little channel message I did yesterday, the key is in your hand. It is literally within you. It is not outside of you. And if you can start tuning in more and recognizing that about yourself, how extraordinary, how incredible, how strong, how amazing, how regardless of what you have experienced and been through, you're still alive and kicking. You're still going. And that's what makes you so incredible and so extraordinary. And that's what makes you an inspiration for so many that you don't even know. Stand in that light. Stand in that truth. Stand in that power. In the times to come, it will support you and it will sustain you. So with that, January, we're into January. That's when Mars moves retrograde into the sign of Cancer. Cancer is the heart. Cancer is the home. Cancer is the family. And so there could be more of an emphasis on home, family, mother, those sorts of things. Right now, when it's in Leo, there's an emphasis on ego, and that's why like the energy of war could be very, very prevalent over the next month, and then things might kind of slow down a little bit, and then it's going to be sort of the battle of the sexes, or the battle of the relationship, or the battle within the family. So that could really increase over that January 6th to 2025 to February 23rd of 2025, okay? When Mars is still in retrograde, but it's going to be in the sign of Cancer. It is going to be an energy shift. It's going to be a different energy, but again, different battle than the energy of the Mars retrograde in Leo. Could bring up to what they're saying is that time, especially in Cancer, could bring up a lot of mother wounds, could bring up a lot of your own inner feminine wounds. So right now, too, like that feminine and masculine energy is very, very strong in the collective. Again, it's almost like clashing, it's almost battling, but this is not divine feminine, masculine battling. This is the wounded feminine, or the distorted feminine and distorted masculine battling. That's why there's so much, stuff in the media about it, right? And so Mars retrograde in Leo is the battle of the ego. And so it's a very sort of masculine battling time. Your ego could be bruised during this time. Your ego could be humbled, vice versa. People who have abused their power, who have an overactive ego, who have really bullied and steamrolled for a long time may finally meet their match or catch their karma during this time as well. So you're going to see a lot of that, more falls from grace, especially from public figures and celebrities, or could be more notable public figure and celebrity deaths during this time. Again, it's like the wounded ego, the distorted ego, is really going to be front and center over the next month. So check yourself where you're still dealing with things in your ego that need to come to balance. This is a great time for shadow work. a great time for just inner reflection. And again, using that anger energy, especially if you're feeling it, in very constructive and creative ways to benefit yourself. Because the beautiful thing with this energy is like you could really quantum leap right now and manifest whatever you want for yourself, the good and the not so good, okay? But when it goes into Cancer, it's going to be more of a battle of the heart. And so that feminine energy, that distorted feminine, the wounded feminine, the parts of the feminine that have felt rejected and disowned are really going to come up into the light. And so really look at that as well, because the emotions could be very, very heavy. The way that we're showing me is like, you know, if you've ever seen like surfing competitions where they're in these places like Tahiti and like Australia and other places around the world where the waves get 40, 50 feet, like huge, huge waves. They were saying like the emotion's gonna come in like huge waves like that, where it's gonna be so overwhelming. If you're not keeping yourself emotionally regulated and balanced now, okay? January could be like overwhelming, too intense time for emotion. So just trigger warning. That's something that they were really showing me and kind of wanting me to share in this video. And so it's just important to like always be in touch with your emotions. What does something make you feel? Sometimes something makes you feel nothing, and like that's okay too, you know? Sometimes you're just like, I don't care. And that's perfectly okay. Like you don't always need to emote. You don't always need to feel something. But if you are feeling some type of way about something, really identify that. Everything's coming up to the surface to be purged, to be healed. Sometimes the fast track for healing, and again, this is why I believe Trump was elected. The fast track for healing is catalysts, and catalysts are usually towers, transformative moments, crisis points, and challenges. As much as they suck, because they do, they can fast track your healing. And so during this next almost 3 months, it can be a fast track to healing, but it is not going to be an easy path. And so again, just trust your intuition, your inner guidance, really listen to your inner voice, because the ego and the conscious mind are going to be very loud during this time. Don't allow that, especially if you're angry, to drown out the voice of your heart and your soul and your intuition, because that voice is definitely quieter. This could be a very specific time too of a lot of healing and spiritual transformation and balancing between twins. But again, it comes through catalyst, it comes through towers, it comes through, for some of you, sacred rage, for others of you, something completely breaking down. All paths will lead to healing if you let it. Don't make something more than what it is, because the other part of this energy with Mars being in retrograde, especially during a Mercury retrograde right now, is that, you know, you could really turn a molehill into a mountain and then it becomes a shitstorm. So try not to do that, okay? If you pop off and you say things that you regret saying, acknowledge that and immediately take ownership of it. Apologize. do the right thing, not just for yourself, but for others. Even if you were justified in the moment for popping off, sometimes though, even in our justification, we could have handled things a better way. And so recognize that and acknowledge that too. Just trying to sit with my energy to see if there's anything else that wanted to come through for this video. Know that if you're feeling just kind of very heavy with the intensity of the energy in the moment, you're not alone. Again, this time period is a fast track for healing, but it's going to come through battling the things, the situations, and the people that are disempowering you. And because of that, there could be more challenging situations and circumstances that show up in your life just to kind of get you to see that, hey, this relationship, this situation is not for you. It's not working. And so it's a very important time to use your discernment. There is a term called divine discontent, and this time could bring up, oh, as I'm saying that, my throat's closing up. So again, really important time to speak, to share your voice, to assert yourself, to assert your boundaries. But as I was going to say, this time is something that can really bring up a lot of hard conversations. And I think that's why my voice was, I'm going to cut, started to, because there could be some hard truths and hard conversations that need to be had during this time as well. Don't shy away from that. Usually when there's a Mercury retrograde, I'd say don't have that conversation. But because there's a Mars retrograde, it might be forced for you to have it. And you really, again, should speak your truth and be your most authentic self. Even if you don't win the battle, you will win the war. And for some of you, myself included in this, our lesson is to use our voice and not suffer in silence. If you see something, if you feel a certain type of way, say it. Say it with love. Say it in a way where you're respecting yourself and others, but say it. Okay, Spirit, anything else? There was something else and it just kind of slipped my mind. And I guess that's all for now. All right. So key points. Mercury in retrograde with the Mars in retrograde. Just know that things are going to be weird and go sideways a little bit in terms of communication, travel, relationships, etc. For the next couple weeks and the next couple months, while Mars is still in retrograde. Diffuse yourself. You are only responsible for yourself. You are only in control of what you feel and what you think and how you respond. And so diffuse yourself. Whatever that means for you. In whatever situation you find yourself in. Equally, don't be afraid to speak your truth, your authentic truth. You can do it in a way where you're setting boundaries with love, but just know that no, the word no and O, is a full sentence and it is a full stop. If your answer is no, don't allow anyone to make you feel bad for that or question that in any way. Equally, this is a great time for spiritual and energetic cleansing. Cleanse your home, cleanse your space, cleanse the places that you frequent, wear crystals, ground your energy, use your tools to stay calm in the midst of the chaos, because it is going to be extremely chaotic the next few months over the course of the next year. Understand that sometimes the fastest way to heal is to have it all triggered and it all come apart and you recognizing your strength and your power during those moments. Again, they're not fun, they're not easy, but they are there to show you how powerful and how incredible you truly are, and that when you're aligning yourself with God and your angels and your guides and your highest truth, that you have the power and the wisdom and tools to truly overcome anything that is thrown in your path. Where there's a will, there's a way. And so trust your heart and soul. Use your triggers, your anger, your righteous anger, your sacred rage in a way that motivates you to do better for yourself, to receive better for yourself, and to create everything that you desire, because you're not taking no for an answer from the universe and from God. You're like, it's time, I'm done, and we're moving forward. That's how you need to act, and that's how you need to move during this period, okay? Equally though, if Mars retrograde, because of where it is placed in your birth chart, brings you an energy of being lethargic, being tired, needing to rest, just health doesn't feel good, your energy, you're just not up, honor that as well. And take this period of time to rest, to slow down, to do less, and to really just get in tune with yourself. There could be, and there may be, a lot of craziness and changes in the world over the next couple months too. So just keep calm and carry on. Stay centered in your heart. Know that everything that's taking place is for ultimately the best and highest good for the evolution of humanity. And just stay in whatever vibration brings you the most peace. All right, I think that's all I want to bring through in this video. If I remember what came through that just passed and slipped on by, I'll put it in the comments, or I'll make a second video. I've been talking long enough. But yeah, you're not alone during this time. You're not alone in this energy. Sending you so much love. Take care.